what's up YouTube? Welcome to today's video where I'm going to go over the new best bow in Kalandra League, and boy oh boy, it's kind of a disappointment. I actually saw this base for sale for 1.5 mirrors and I debated buying it, and so did my friend, but in the end, it was too hard to craft. We judged it that it was going to be near impossible to craft it out, and even if we did craft it out, it would never make back the profit. So this is the bow. Someone actually bought it, and we're going to go over how much they actually bought it for and why the bow looks like the way it does, and if it's actually better than the Fracture +2 arrow bow that you see so commonly found. Now, this bow really deserves a better home in terms of the base. The base is nuts. This is probably one of the best bases in a while. Now, the reason why people make this bow is because Tornado Shot, which is the build that uses this bow, benefits from as many arrows as possible, and it's shotguns, so having additional arrows is pretty much having a multiplier on your damage. Now, the best bow in the league possible does revolve around finding a synthesized spine bow with +1 additional arrow. Now, we could actually go look at this, so we go see on PoE Ninja and look at the builds, and you are playing Tornado Shot. At the start of the league, Tornado Shot is not really that popular. As you can see, it's only 2%. Not many people are playing it at the moment, and you have to sort it by Tornado Shot, because there's actually a lot of people playing Tornado Shot as a cast on crit trigger. So you can see here, this is pretty much the #1 person, and they're using a fractured 2 additional arrow bow, and it's okay, but it's not really that great. So this is 274 to 690, and this bow is a lot lower on physical damage, but it does have the flat cold damage. Now, it'll be interesting to see later on if this bow is actually more damage than this Fracture +2 arrow. Now, we go back to Sentinel League and look at this, and you will see that it is a massively different amount of damage. Now, this is the bow that was made last league. This one actually has, well, this is actually not the bow, because you see that bow doesn't have the synthesize. This one has the wrong synthesis implicit. It has 22% physical damage and 6% attack speed. So maybe someone over here has it, right? So Havoc Mark. So this one was actually made pretty early on in the league last time. Bow fires an additional arrow, and you can see here the suffix has +2 additional arrow, and the prefixes are 277 fizz and adds 50 to 90. And this one over here, it does seem like it's missing a lot of stuff, right? So it's nowhere near as good as last league. But the big difference is that it has 2 additional arrows last league, and this league only has 1 additional arrow. Now, the reason why this is because in this league, crafting methods have been completely gutted. There's no more Reforged Key prefix suffix. There's no more Harvest Lucky Divines for prefix and suffix. And this pretty much means that making a synthesized item is an extremely, extremely ambitious endeavor. So if we actually look at it right now, if we go to Kalandra League and look at the best Tornado Shot profiles, they will all be using a fractured item and then crafting it with essences, because it's just a lot better to do it like that. And it is a lot easier to make the bow when you don't need to worry about the +2 additional arrows, which is the lowest weight of them all. So we're going to go see how much the base actually sold for. So this base is probably one of the best synthesized bases to exist in a long time to pop up on a temporary league. Now, the best bow in the game currently is actually called Dragon Thunder, and it's pretty much an identical base to this. So we go here and we go look at Standard League. So it's called Dragon Thunder. We actually synthesized this base back in Harvest League. Is it called Dragon Thunder? I don't even remember anymore. But let's sort by price. Yeah. So Dragon Thunder. So this is a copy of it. So this base is additional arrow, cold damage, and 7 to 10 flat fizz. So it's pretty much near identical to this base, except it's missing the 7 to 10 flat fizz. Instead, this thing has gained 15 life per enemy killed. Now, this base was originally priced at 1.5 mirrors, but I guess no one really bought it. He says he sold it for 50 divines eventually, which is an extremely, extremely low cost. And it's pretty much because no one actually wanted to craft it out, because they knew that crafting it out was going to be a huge, huge money sink. Now, the reason why this happens is because there's no more Reforged Key prefix and suffix. So that means you can't just use... So after you finish the prefixes, you can't just use prefixes cannot be changed, Reforged Attack to try to get additional arrows. And then once you hit additional arrows, you use prefixes cannot be changed again and Reforged much more likely in order to try to hit 2 additional arrows. And that is just not possible, because if you do Reforged attacks, sooner or later, you're going to fill up your suffixes and then the bow is going to be bricked. Now, Another part about making a really, really good fizz bow is there's no more harvest divines. Dividing a physical bow perfectly is a huge, huge cost. Sometimes you will never even get it close to perfect, and without the harvest divines, that rolls it lucky, and when it rolls it lucky, it rolls it twice, and it takes the highest value. And not only does it do that, it also does it for only the prefix and only the suffix. So you can theoretically divine luckily the prefix, and then once you finish the prefix and then you do the suffix, which makes it infinitely easier. So right now, in order to actually divine a physical bow perfectly, it's near impossible. Now, as the owner of TFT said, and I did find this in the TFT shop, he says that crafting the explicits is near impossible and it has become exponentially harder. And that's pretty much without these crafts. There's no more reforge, much more likely either. And I was really surprised that GGG didn't bring back any of these crafts at all, because some of these crafts I do feel like, even though they're kind of strong, Harvest Divines are something that I feel like are maybe too strong to be kept in. But Reforge Key Prefix and Suffix I feel like should definitely be in the game. And Reforge much more likely does have a place in the game at 100x, even because right now it's just Reforge more likely, which is only 10 times more likely, which is actually terrible. Now, you might be wondering, why is the bow only one additional arrow? Because one additional arrow technically makes the bow not that great, because that means that this base is pretty much just 40% cold damage. This base you see right here, compared to a fractured 2 additional arrow, the only thing this bow has on the other bow is that you have 44% increased cold damage, and that's it. Now, even though the base is eye level 86 plus, and you do see here, in order to get 2 additional arrows, the bow base has to be eye level 86 plus, and it is 100 weighting. Now, 100 weighting is super, super low. Now, I think the TFT owner calculated that getting the +2 arrow suffix would cost at least 700 divines on average, which is 4.4 mirrors at the current rate. And once you get the +2 arrows, you also have to gamble on Ashling, so you have to craft on prefixes cannot be changed, and then you have to pray that the Ashling hits off the prefixes cannot be changed, and not the 2 additional arrows. And then after you get that 50-50, you then have to win another, I think it's like a 20 or 30% chance. You have to get either double damage, or you could also get, I guess, attack speed, or you can get crit chance strengthen in. So there's only a few options right there, and it kind of sucks overall. But you can see it's very, very expensive. Now, I actually think he underestimated the cost of it, because if you actually looked at Craft of Exile, if we go to the bow area, we can see here when you do reforge attacks, and you'll see that this is actually one of the biggest problems with crafting right now, is that it is just way too expensive. When you do reforge attacks, so you can see here it's a 0.1%, so that means it's 1 in 1,000 roughly. But when you do reforge attacks, it's I think it's 0.3%, which means it's 1 in 300. So I think he estimated out because he thinks you just do prefixes cannot be changed, and then you reforge attack, and then you can get that. But the problem with that is that does come out to around like 600, 700 divine-ish. But the problem with that method is that you have to actually wipe the suffixes off fully, because otherwise you're going to fill up the suffixes eventually and break it. So the only way to do it guaranteed is you have to craft on prefixes cannot be changed, and then you have to do Aug Attack. And Aug Attack is the craft that you find on a Hoarder crafting station. And this actually, let's see, attack. Which one is this one? So this one is right here. Add a new attack, remove another random modifier. And this one was like 2 to 3 divines when I saw it last. So if you do that, that's like 2 to 3 divines, and then you have to wipe the suffixes every time and craft on prefixes cannot be changed. It's actually 7 divines per attempt. So 7, and then you can see here it's 300 attempts roughly, is actually 2,100 divines on average. So if you actually calculate it out, it's around 10 mirrors plus to hit 2 additional arrows. And then if you account for the fact for the Ashton gamble, you have to win the 50-50, it's probably around 20 mirrors to just finish the suffixes. And prefixes, if you wanted to get it perfect, would probably cost like 5 mirrors or so. And I don't know why the prefixes for this bow looks the way it does. Because if you can see right here, the bow prefixes are T1 cold damage. And maybe they actually popped it out. So let's go actually check out the POB real fast to see if it's actually better. So in order to check out the POB, we're just going to go look at someone's profile from last league that had perfect gear, and then switch out the bow. Or wait, not last league, but this league. So we can go to see Tornado Shot, and right here, Tornado Shot, so we can sort it by damage. And I think the number 1 guy had a pretty good bow when I saw it. So this person right here, we copy and paste his profile. I think this one's 235%, so it's not even like the best bow possible, but we could try to go on PoE Ninja or Path of Exile Trade. So you can see here it's 11.1 mil, and let's see how many arrows this person actually fires. So you can see here, Tornado Shot, projectile count 7. So usually I just do a Tornado Shot including full DPS count 7. And that's how you do it if you want to account for shotgunning. So you can see here it's like 81 mil DPS. Now we take the new bow, and we actually can't use the new bow because I couldn't find it on PoE Trade, and I didn't really want to import it. But I do think that a perfectly crafted Fracture plus 2 arrow bow will be more DPS, but it's going to be really, really close. However, if we go look at the trade site, you have to actually pay a mirror fee in order to mirror the bow, I'm assuming. So it's going to be not that worthwhile because it's going to cost a lot more. So we go look at spine bows right now. On this league right now, we can see that the physical DPS it goes to, okay, we're on standard league. Holy shit. It's actually 1153 before. And right now it's at 825. So this is probably as good as it's going to get. So pretty much just comes down to if you think the T1 cold damage will actually beat it out. So 825 is what's available. I think my bow right now currently is 790. So my bow is actually pretty good. And I think this bow probably comes out to the Havoc mark or whatever is around. I'm not even sure. They didn't actually put it up. Or not Havoc mark, but the other bow that is available. So this bow I think is two. So the way you calculate the damage is 268 plus 648 divided by 2 times 1.58. So let's do some quick math real fast. 268 plus 648 and then 916 divided by 2 and times 458 times 1.58. So this bow is actually 723 PDPS. So it's probably not really going to beat an 825 DPS bow, even with the 44% increased cold damage and T1 cold. So yeah. And you also have to factor in the cost. That's going to cost a lot more than just one mirror. And that's the biggest problem with mirror items. In order to make back the money from crafting an item, you have to get a crazy, crazy amount of copies. And that's just not going to happen in this economy. Currently, the cost of a mirror is extremely low though, so it is possible you get more mirror services because right now there's not that many good items. If we actually look on TFT, and TFT would probably have a lot more items at this stage. This ring is pretty good, but this ring is mostly because of the base, but it is +1 endurance charge instead of frenzy. And then you have, this was on standard, 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 standard. And this one is a fracture item with a crafted mod. It's like not that great. And then this one is pretty insane. I think you just use fossils to craft it probably. And then there's this one, which is literally another fracture item with a crafted mod. So, and then there's the minion item. But overall, you can see there's just almost no items even on the TFT shop for mirror service. And that's pretty much, the crafting methods are just way too expensive. Most people do not think they'll make back their money from crafting a mirror item. The player base is also poorer than ever before, as there's pretty much no top tier currency money-making methods that's even close to 10 divines per hour. And lastly, you have Sentinel Glacier, which was pretty much a guaranteed 10 exalts per hour. Also, the player base is smaller now than before, and a lot of the top tier groups and people who are high end have quit the league because they can't really juice maps anymore. So the amount of players available to mirror it is lower. They're also poorer than before. So it's just not really feasible to craft a bow out to be as good as it was previously. At this stage of the league, with the budget and crafting tools available, this is as good as it gets, unless at least until a bunch of currency can be generated to even attempt anything better. So this is pretty much the reason why the bow is the way it is. Now, overall, without the previous methods, we have to pretty much rethink the quality of a mirror item. And the problem with the mirror item is right now, crafting with onto a fracture base with essence spamming is extremely, extremely high floor. So like even a mirror item is not going to be that much better. And then you have to spend so much because you have to buy the mirror and then you have to pay the mirror fee. Now, cost of crafting is astronomically high right now. If you don't want to break the suffixes or prefixes, when you metamod craft, it costs around 7 divines per attempt. And divines will probably go up from 170C. I'm actually very surprised is still at 170 chaos. But I think this is more of an indictment on how many people are not crafting with meta mods because it's just too expensive and most people don't want to actually brick their item, because I do think that a lot of people are actually exalting their items at the moment. And I do hope that this base one day gets recrafted in this league because it does deserve a better home. It's actually really, really sad to look at this bow and see this base and see that it's only one additional arrow, but that's just the sad reality of the league. So I just wanted to update people if they wanted to mirror a bow and why the bow actually looks like the way it was, because a lot of people actually message me on stream as I look at this bow, why is it crafted like this? And there is a reason behind that, and it's just the cost of crafting is way too high to justify actually crafting it out because there's not enough players to mirror it and the players are too poor. So please get richer, and that's why I wish everyone to find exalts at the end of every video. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more mirrors, exalts, and mage bloods than me, and I guess divines. But thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye!